That's lovely. Um, so what I'm going to do then is I'll just, as I say, I'll give it a couple of minutes and just wait to see if anybody else joins us, and then I'll kick off. I've also put together a bit of a slide deck. So for those of you who join live today, I will email you across the slide deck so that you've got that for your information if you want to have a look at anything in a bit more detail. Okay, so I'm going to make a start. So if I share, right, hello everybody, and welcome to today's session, which is about making your mark in 2026. My name is Wendy Garcars, and I run the Thought Leader Academy. And essentially, this is a space, a community, a group that is designed to give people thinking space so that they can do a couple of things, so that they can capitalize on the expertise that they have developed over the years in their career and the transferable skills that life has given them that they can use in their work. But it's also to give you a space that's away from all of the noise in the system. So for me, social media has become a really noisy place and not always a place to go for the right sort of information. And as an expert, if you've developed that knowledge over a period of time, you may need a space that just really allows you the freedom to play around with ideas and things. And that's the whole idea of creating thought leaders, to give you the space to do that. So, without further ado, I'm going to take you through the presentation today. I'd suggest that if you've got a notebook and pen or a bit of paper and a pen to hand, that might be useful because I'm going to ask you to do a bit of reflection as we go through, ask you a few questions and things. And then at the end, I am going to tell you if you want to know more, how to find out more about the work that I do with Thought Leader Academy and with the think tanks and things that I do. So, without any further ado, I'm going to start off by talking about why I do this work and how I've come to this situation. I'm quite long in the tooth. I'm 65. And I still have the passion and the purpose and the enthusiasm and the drive that I had when I was in my 30s. And I think for lots of us who end up being in that very fortunate position of never having to work a day in their life again because they do absolutely what they love, I think that's quite a common situation. I think that if you love what you do, if you believe in what you do, if you're passionate about what you do, then it gives you an energy that doesn't exist in ordinary mundane jobs. And I think it really helps us to crystallize that expertise and the knowledge that we've created, and we want to share with other people. So my career goes back well over 30 odd years. And I came to create this space because I see other people around me that may not have that length of experience, but certainly have a lot of knowledge, a lot of intellectual capital, which actually they don't do much with. They either undervalue it or they take it for granted, or they just assume that it's them making noise. They don't understand the value of it to other people. And really, what I want thought leaders to do is I want to change that because we exist and we grow and we develop as a population, as a society, or as a community by sharing what we know, the good and the bad. Um, Sharing the good helps us to develop things and innovate and be creative, and sharing the bad helps us stop us reinventing the wheel and repeating old mistakes. So I think that what I want to do as we look forward into 2026 today is I want to get you to start tapping into that repository of knowledge and expertise that you've built up and seeing how it can serve you best for the coming 12 months. Some of you will know that I also, in the work that I do, I wear a futurist hat, and every year I do what I call my futures report. And what I do is I look across the business sectors, industry sectors, and just make some predictions about what the year will bring, what the next year will bring, and what the next 5 years will bring. And when I do this for some big corporations, I end up doing what the next 10 years will bring, because actually the patterns are already set. We've already established the patterns of what is to come. We may not know what that looks like exactly, but the pattern is there for us to make some fairly safe predictions. And from my futures report this year, I pulled out a few things that I think people ought to know if they're running their own business, particularly SMEs. It's a difficult operating time at the moment. The economy is tight and it's causing us a few tensions. I just really wanted to put some information out there that might be useful for you. So the first thing that I noted is that there are going to be some significant shifts in social media that have already sort of started the latter part of last year, this year that we're in now, but will continue to develop and will continue to grow in 2026. And these are things like lots of you will have already noticed the algorithmic changes that lots of the platforms are using. They're using those that are shaping their commercial demands of that platform. So, LinkedIn, Facebook, you're starting to see things shift around the services that they offer for free and the ones that they're going to put behind a paywall. And some of that will happen significantly in 2026, particularly on LinkedIn. What you're going to start to see is some of the search options that you used to use for free, you're going to have to pay for because it'll be included in their Navigator Professional package. And that might not affect you because you might not use that service. But for example, if you are a headhunter or if you're in HR and you've utilized that search engine or that search feature for you to be able to pick out ideal clients that you might want to work with or might want to headhunt, then that's going to become more likely going to become a paid service in the UK later on this year or maybe early part of next year. It's already started to happen in America as we speak. But there will be other changes. The algorithms certainly are starting to um, show the impact that they are having, particularly on things like organic reach, who sees your posts, what sort of posts are rewarded, those sort of things. And if you know me and you know the work that I've been doing, I did a piece of research in the latter part of this year that looked at what happened when I changed my gender. That's all I did on my LinkedIn profile. I just changed my gender, didn't change my name, didn't change any of my pictures, nothing. But because I had identified as a male in my profile, in some cases, in some months, depending on the content that I put out, my reach increased by 500%. 500%. That is no accident. And there are lots of these studies around. You can go and have a look at them. Lots of women found the same thing. So if you're a woman, then your reach is affected. If you are a woman of colour, your reach is doubly affected. These are things that are not set out specifically in the algorithm. They don't specifically say we will limit the reach of women. But if you are rewarding content that is driven by men in a male voice, then by its nature, you are going to be downgraded. And so lots of people are saying, well, all you have to do, if that's the case, is just up your content, make sure you're putting out, really valuable content. My content was exactly the same. I repurposed posts from earlier on in the year to do my test and the reach increased, as I say, in some cases by 500%. So when we're talking about the value of content, it's not your definition of that, it's using, it's its definition of that it's using. And so the language that you post in will have an impact on whether your content is shared. Um, Now, that's just one example. There are lots of others around how some of the shifts in the algorithms are making it more challenging to have your voice heard. But that's set against a backdrop of there being so many more users who are posting much more frequently. And so what it means is that this system, this environment that social media has created is actually becoming a very loud and a very, very busy place. And it's going to become more and more difficult for you to be seen in that space, particularly if you are not one of the groupings that is being actively promoted by the algorithm. So, what this suggests to me is you can complain about it all you like. You can write letters. I certainly have been in contact with LinkedIn. I haven't had any response at all. I didn't expect one. Other than the generic comments that they're putting out to say that the algorithm isn't biased, they haven't specifically set it out that way. Evidence would suggest differently. Um, you can't do anything about that. And I'm a great believer in not banging your head against a brick wall, but working in areas where you do have some agency and where you can make an influence. And so for me, what that shift means is that we all need a new game plan for 2026. And we need to be creating a multi-channel platform for us to be effective. Now, the reality is that any social media platform that you post on is a rented asset. You don't own that asset, you rent space on it. And at any time, you can have that access withdrawn. So I've been in contact over the last year with women who've had their Facebook accounts suspended. And for some, if they ran their business through that, that has meant a complete immediate cessation of contact with 5, 10, 15,000 users and followers. That can have a massive impact on somebody's business. Um, the same with LinkedIn, that if your account is suspended, you might be lucky enough to get it back, you might not be, but certainly all of those contacts that you've built up with over the years will suddenly not be available to you anymore. So we need to be thinking about the difference between the contacts that we rent and the contacts that we own, and building a multi-channel platform where, and this is really obvious stuff, where the majority of the assets that we carry in terms of our contacts are owned by us, not rented from a platform. So we need to be building a platform that is a different proportion to the ones that we've been used to using over the last decade. Um, we also, again, one of the things that I've noticed working with women in particular over the last 12 months is how many females treat their track record and their experience as just ordinary. It's just them. They don't treat it as an intellectual capital with a commercial value. They just sort of take it for granted. And the difficulty with that is you're leaving probably your most valuable asset on the table. You are putting yourself at a disadvantage because you're not utilizing all of that experience that you've gathered and all that knowledge that you hold as a lever to build your client base and your reach and the influence that you have over other people. So you need to be thinking about how you are going to change that in 2026, because that on its own is bad enough. But coupled with the problems that we're going to be experiencing and the shifts in social media that we're going to be seeing, it's a bit of a double whammy. So we need to get you thinking around that voice, that intellectual capital. And then there is a bigger shift. This is more subtle, and people will sort of know this is true when you get them to talk about it, but they might not necessarily have thought about it on their own already, which is that generally, because of all of this that's happening and because of the conversations that people are shifting away from volume and noise, and they want something more authentic. They want to hear people who've been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. They want to know that any advice that is given is being given from a place of knowledge and certainty and not just guesswork or a template that they picked up, 3 days ago on the internet. They want something that is rooted in a genuine solution. And so people are going to start to be much more discerning around what they believe, what they follow, what they make use of, if it comes from a digital source. And of course, added to all of this, we have AI, which, can be absolutely fantastic in some circumstances. But unless it's checked and unless due diligence is taken place, can hang you out to dry because not everything that AI produces is factually correct. So we're in this situation. If you put those three things together, you're sort of almost looking at a perfect storm, really. And if you go into 2026 believing that what you did in 2025 is good enough, then you're really going to struggle to get a foothold and to be heard in the changing pattern of what we're seeing in 2026. So, what I wanted to do today is I want to get you thinking about what thought leadership really looks like beyond social media, because the world is much bigger than social media. And this thing called thought leadership people struggle with, but it really is very straightforward. Thought leaders are people who've been there, done it, and got the t-shirt. They're people who've got a lot of experience, they understand the context, they've got the ability to strategically think, and they can use all of that to help other people navigate some of the difficulties that they may be experiencing. So I'm going to get you thinking about your view of that today and where you sit with that. I want to talk a little bit about why experience is being systematically undervalued, just generally. And sometimes this happens overtly, but more often than not, it happens invisibly. And we are partly to blame for some of that. And I want to explore some of that and get you thinking about whether you are doing some of that inadvertently. And then I want to get you to start thinking about how we build authority without selling your soul or your sanity to the algorithm. Because I see people who run themselves into the ground by posting every day on every single platform that they do and still feeling that they're not doing enough. And what I want to get people to do is say, chill out, relax, and start to understand that it's not the quantity of what you do, but is the intelligence of what you put out and where you put it that's important. And being a busy fool will not get you the results that you're looking for. What we want is some intelligence, some discernment, and some control on your part in terms of how you're building your platform. So that those are some of the things I'm just going to cover today. And the first thing I want to do is I want to give you a bit of a reflection to start with. So if you've got your pad and your pen handy, what I'd like to do is get you to answer this question. Just going to give you a couple of minutes to think about it. How would you describe what you stand for and why it matters now? So, this is getting you to think about perhaps those networking pitches that you do. If you've got to describe not just what you do, because anybody can do that, but what you stand for. Why do you do what you do? And why does that matter now? What would you say? Just going to give you a minute to do that. Now, some of you will have been able to do that fairly easily. You'd just be able to rattle that off. But what we realize is in the world we exist in, where our rented assets are demanding that we put content out all of the time, we fall into the trap of describing what we do and believe it is more important than why we do it. And yet, if you look at what people are looking for when they try and search for help or an answer, a solution to their problem, they're really not interested in what is done, What they're interested in is the caliber of the person that is going to help them achieve the solution that they're looking for. Because there is something that is age old, that is one of those universal truths. People buy people first. If you do not know someone well, if you don't like that person, and if you don't trust that person, you will never work with them. It's as simple as that. And so your online persona has to give something of yourself to allow what used to be a face-to-face relationship development. People used to get to know, like, and trust you because they met you face to face. If they're doing that online, they need the time and they need the information to be able to do that digitally. And you will not be putting out the right information if all you're telling them is what you do. So that's just to give you a little bit of food for thought, really. What it means is it should be posing you with a question, which is, are you stepping up into your power? And what I mean by that is, if you have spent all of that time and effort gathering together your expertise, your track record, your reputation, then you would be selling yourself short if you didn't do something with that this year. And when you look at the sort of amount of stuff that people do, they talk about scaling up their business and growing their business, and they're going to learn this system and that system, or they're going to bring on board a team member, or they're going to restructure in this particular way. All of that is good. I'm not decrying that at all. But unless you have invested in yourself as a business owner, you can put whatever systems in place you like, but it won't deal with some of that internal dialogue that might be holding you back. And the internal dialogue is absolutely crucial. If you want to do things differently in the future, because doing the same thing will only bring you the same results. So if you're looking for different results, you need to do things differently. If you do not address the internal dialogue that keeps you where you are at the moment, that change will never happen. And it doesn't matter what you're dealing with. If you're dealing with personal trauma, if you're dealing with organisational issues, if you're dealing with monetary problems, if you're dealing with visibility issues, it doesn't matter. If you've got beliefs that are holding you in that pattern where you are at the moment, unless you deal with that, nothing will change. So this year is something about doing something for yourself. Yes, Zena.
Yes, sorry, wanted to interrupt you, but I believe, first of all, nice to see you all. It's like Merry Christmas. Yeah, before we going deeper in this part, uh, you know how I'm interested in this part and how I feel the same as you described now, perfectly. But unfortunately, what I've seen, and I'd like to hear your opinion about it, people who are not really honest or authentic, who are pretending to be someone else, who are doing silly things all the time on social media, who are oversharing, even the private parts
Yeah.
of their lives, uh, seems they are succeeding, even if we are not feeling it the way, or maybe we are not satisfied with this way. This is not our way, maybe, of thinking or working. And I still believe every group, like every person have their own, like, let's say, audience or
Yeah.
clients. But the problem still, those people still dominating the field. For example, in my LinkedIn, I see, for example, I won't give names, but a lady or a man, they are always there. Whenever you open your LinkedIn, they are there all the time, and you feel like this is too much, and sometimes you're not even interested in what they are writing.
Yeah.
Even maybe they are good writers, sometimes you enjoy their post, but because it's like over, you feel oversaturated from
Yeah.
their ideas, so you
Absolutely.
stop you stop reading it. But still, I know people who know them, and I know they are successful through this push or this pressure of social
Yeah.
media. So
Yeah.
what do you think about this? How can we?
I think there are a couple of things there. I think that the first one is that what we're going to start to see is that they were successful, built on a profile and a system that worked before the algorithms changed. So
Mm,
they've got to where they are now based on the old system. I think they will also feel it becoming even more difficult to do what they did as the algorithm changes. So just because they have been successful don't doesn't mean to say that they will be successful moving forward. What I've started to do is I've started to retrain my LinkedIn and the algorithm as a result of that by actively snoozing people, blocking people, requesting not to see that content
mm,
because unless it's no good us complaining about it if we do nothing about it. So if we know that the algorithm is using choices to make decisions about what it puts in front of people and what it doesn't, we have to do our bit to train it, like you would train an AI assistant.
mm,
So for me, I've started to do that on the platforms that I do appear on, and I don't appear across the board on everything, but on the ones that I actively appear on, probably LinkedIn is my biggest. I've started to really quite aggressively manage what comes into my feed and the sort of people that I follow. And if I'm seeing too much of somebody and it's not the sort of content that I'm looking for at that time, then I will snooze them for 30 days or whatever it is um, because I need to let the algorithm know that I that's not doing it for me. And
mm,
I'm responding in that way. So I think we do have some power to be able to do that. The other thing that I would say is about perceived success. I see all of the time people assuming that because they're seeing the same people doing polished posts, appearing in everybody's feed, and having a lot of that bandwidth that is being created, they assume that that is success. Please don't do that
mm,
because sometimes the best marketeers are the ones that are struggling the greatest. They're just better at hiding it than other people.
mm, mm,
So,
mm,
one of the problems that has brought us, I believe, one of the problems that's brought us to where we are at the moment is the comparisonitis that exists. So, people are so willing to compare themselves with people who they believe do similar things to them and almost to give away or surrender the edge that they might have because somebody else appears more successful. You can't do that because you don't know whether what you're looking at is accurate because of the problems that we've already talked about with social media. So don't depend on it. Start to build your own platform that you know is true to you. Look at your own assets and
mm,
start to build what you want to reach the people that you want to be reaching. And this is a big giveaway. That won't only be on digital spaces. That might be in what you're writing. It might be in alternatives. So lots of you know that I've been curating my own Substack account
mm,
for the last 6 months, and it's taken me 6 months to build a following. I've now created quite a decent following, and I'm starting to get inquiries from the posts that I put out because people are choosing to go and find out about what I'm talking about.
mm.
And that makes a big difference in terms of the sort of connection that I'm having. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, yeah, I know this because what you are speaking about, Wendy, is pure authenticity.
Yeah, it
And
is.
and people, there are like lots of people who are willing to speak to people who are authentic. I don't
Yeah,
want, but now the problem with social media, it feels like my fault that this person has promised that they will post their, like,
yeah,
they promise themselves they will post every day either one post and two posts, and I feel like no, I don't want to see you every time I see this.
yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, that's right. But the problem now with the alternatives, nowadays everything is controlled. So you don't have, as you said, you built your Facebook and it's just disappeared. You built your
Yeah.
Instagram. So there, I don't see it as there are many alternatives. What do you think?
There aren't. No, I don't think there are many alternatives, but
Yeah,
there are some alternatives. And actually, what I do think is as long as they're curated, they're better alternatives.
yeah,
So,
that's
for example, when I talk about owned assets, I'm talking about your own email list.
mm,
So if you are doing that on the back of a landing page, if you're doing it on the back of a website, if you're doing it on the back of a Substack account, or one of the alternatives, whatever it is, that's an asset that you own. And so you have connected with those people. They've given you permission to send them things. So that's an asset that you own.
mm,
Therefore, because that's a voluntary choice, the things that you put out and the relationships that you develop over that channel are actually much more tangible and much more valuable than the ones that the sort of ad hoc relationships that you're developing on open networks like Facebook or whatever. But the problem is that we are in a world where we think that instant gratification is the most important thing. If you're going to do this, you need to start now so that in 12 months' time, you'll really start to reap the benefits. This
mm,
isn't something that you can do today and see an immediate response tomorrow because people take longer than that to get to know, like, and trust somebody. So
mm,
I said I started to curate my Substack account 6 months ago. It's taken me 6 months now to start to see some movement there.
mm,
And there was no shortcut to it because I started it from scratch. And it's taken a while for people to get to know me, to get to know what I write about, to be interested in that, and then to be subscribing to what I do. So it does take time to do that, but it's no good worrying that you didn't start 6 months ago. That 6 months ago was the best time to start. The second best time to start is today.
yeah, that's right.
Because then, as you start to move forward, it will start to gain traction. But if you wait another 12 months, you'll have missed another 12 months. So
Definitely.
it's starting to say to yourself, and lots of you who know me know that I'm a great, one of my favourite books is Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And what I say to people is ask yourself what you're doing today that will make your boat go faster.
What's
And
sorry?
it's a book called Will It Make the Boat Go Faster? And it's by Harriet Beveridge and Ben Hunt Davis, and
Okay.
he was the he was the Olympic rower,
Mm,
Team GB that won us unexpected gold medals in the Atlanta Olympics, and he
mm,
talks about the training regime, and it was really not that. It was not that groundbreaking, but it was profound. What they said was, if we're going to train to do this, we will only do things that make the boat go faster. So we'll
mm,
ignore what everybody else tells us we should be doing. We'll ignore the trends and patterns of what other people are doing, and we will ask the simple question, will it make the boat go faster? And if the answer is yes, we'll do it. And if the answer is no, we won't. And then we'll evaluate the results.
mm,
That is a profound piece of information because it means that suddenly you have a measure that tells you to stop doing the stuff that might look good but waste your time and start doing the stuff that might not give you an immediate result but ultimately will make your boat go faster. And
definitely.
for me, that's what thought leaders do. They don't just follow blindly what everybody else is doing. They do some critical analysis of who they are, what they are, where they're trying to get to, who they're trying to speak to, and make some critical decisions about how to spend the available time that they've got.
Mm,
Surprise, surprise, a lot of it is not doing what everybody else is doing. It's doing something different.
that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, Loretta, you had your hand up.
No, it-
Are you on mute, Loretta? We can't hear you. I'm gonna pop back to you. Okay, so
Sorry, Wendy, what did you say in the beginning about the change you've made that increased your LinkedIn by 500?
all I did was I changed on my profile. I went into my profile and I changed my gender from female to male. That's it. That's
Amazing.
all I did. I didn't
Wow.
change any photographs. I haven't changed my content at all. I'm still putting out exactly the content that I would normally put out in my language. I haven't changed anything at
No,
all. I've just changed my gender in my profile. That's all I did.
unbelievable.
Yeah. Scary stuff. Loretta, are you with me? Yes. No? Okay. Right. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna continue then. So, what I want to do with today is I want to get you to start to think around what are you doing this year, what you plan to do that is something just for you to help support you make this transition. And that might be around starting to tackle some of this internal dialogue that might be holding you back. Sometimes it's about thinking about yourself differently, thinking about yourself in a different way, from a different viewpoint. Because for me, the risk isn't putting yourself out there and increasing your visibility. And I know that's scary, but the risk isn't there. For me, the risk is staying where you are and doing what you've always done while everything else around you changes. Because we cannot, as individuals, stop change from happening. But what we can do is be sensible enough to read the runes, look at the trends and patterns, and start to think about how we respond to that. And we do that proactively rather than waiting until the change is upon us and being forced to react. Because when you're forced to react in those circumstances, you'll never make good decisions. Being ahead of the curve gives you freedom of choice, gives you time and chance to experiment a little bit more. So that's what I wanted really from this session that I wanted to do today, was to give you some breathing space so that you can start to think proactively about some of this stuff and not just feel as though you're being painted into a corner because everybody else has changed and you haven't. That has to start with you valuing your experience. Now, lots of you will know that we did the 10-day challenge earlier this year. And I have to say, when I devised that challenge, there were a couple of things that sprang to mind. First of all, people said to me, 10-day challenge is too long. Everybody else is doing a 3 or 4 day challenge, or a 5 day challenge at the outside. The reason I did a 10-day challenge is I know the complexity of what it takes to become a thought leader. And I am not going to shoehorn that into a 3 day or a 5 day challenge simply because that's what everybody else is doing. The second point was that somebody else said to me, the quantity and the value of what you're putting out, you're mad to do this as a free challenge. If I'm going to say to people, the journey that you've got ahead is going to require you to invest in yourself, change fundamentally what you believe about yourself, and do things that frighten the bejesus out of you, I have to give them a fair chance at looking at that. And that's why I decided to put the value and the content of the 10-day challenge out there for people to play with. And the reality is that some people did it. They did the whole 10 days, and other people did 3 days and gave up. And some people have still got it sitting there in their book and they haven't done anything with it. That's their choice. I can only put it out there. I can't force people to look at it. But what I can do is the moment when the penny drops and people say, oh my God, this can be life changing for me, that I can be there and say, right, now this is the next bit of what you need to do. So I didn't use the 10-day challenge as a way of putting myself on the map amongst all of the others doing challenges. I did it because I want you to understand that thought leadership, if it's for you, can be fundamentally life changing. And that I can help you with that, but only if you're willing to take the action. And for all of those that have still got it sitting in their inbox, and people come up to me quite proudly and say, "Oh, that 10-day challenge looked really good. It's still sitting in my inbox. I've done nothing with it." There is a little bit of a voice in the back of my head that goes, "Well, you're not my client then." because I don't want to work with people that talk about it or think about it. I want to work with people that do it because I'm interested in people who value themselves enough to make a change is the way I look at it, really. And that might sound harsh, but I'd rather people know that up front because that's who I am, really. What the 10-day challenge did, and probably the most fundamental day, was actually the launch day that we did. And the launch day, I gave people a tool that gave them the opportunity to put a monetary value to their track record. Now, the reason I did this is that one of the reasons that people don't value their experience is that it's about valuing their life. They've been through it, they've been through a set of qualifications, or they might have been through a job experience or whatever it is, and they've sort of got to that point in life because they've lived their life. And so they think, well, this is just me. Where's the value in that? But if they were going to replicate that, the tool that I give them shows you how much they would have to spend in money to replicate their experience. And suddenly that shift in perspective really brings home to them what they have created in terms of their intellectual capital. And honestly, unless you've done that exercise, it is life changing because suddenly you start to see yourself as a monetary asset, not just, well, this is little old me doing this and knowing this stuff, but you can actually put a value to it, and it does change the way that you think about it. And the reason I wanted to do that was, if you're going to become a thought leader, you have to stop playing it small and safe. You can't think to yourself, well, if I hide here in the corner, people will find me. No, they won't. They just won't. You have to take it out there. You have to put your money where your mouth is. You have to be brave and you have to be visible, because there are people out there that desperately need your help. And if they can't find you, what use are you? You can have all of the knowledge and everything in your head, but if you're not sharing it, how are you being of value to somebody? So the visibility stuff isn't cosmetic. It isn't a nice to have. It's an absolute essential if you're going to get the message across that you can help people to make a transformation in their life. That is about you stepping up to the plate and taking responsibility for the difference you know you can make. And I know it's hard. We don't, because as soon as you put the head above the parapet, there's going to be somebody who's going to throw a rock at you. We know that. That is the digital space that we occupy, but it doesn't, that's not the whole picture. And it's getting you to think differently about yourself. So, next reflection then. If LinkedIn, X, Instagram, or Facebook disappeared tomorrow, how would you reach your audience? If suddenly that was taken away, what would your options be? And if you don't know the answer to that question, then you haven't got a platform. You've got a megaphone that you're using at the moment to reach a captive audience. And that's not the same thing. So you need to be thinking around, if those things did disappear, how would you reach it? If you were going to build something, what would that look like? How could you connect with them? Now, again, for some of you that know me, you'll know that this is a bit of it's a bit of a sort of a drum that I'm banging at the moment because it's really ticking me off. If I could do one thing, it would be to stop gullible people falling for snake oil sales. I am sick to death of the number of posts I am seeing, which is this cookie cutter approach. Come and join me, pay me, I don't know how much money, or I'm going to give it away for free. I'm going to give you away all of my templates, and you too can make sure that your product sells, um, you know, 3 million quid's worth of stock in the first 6 weeks. It's balderdash. In the majority of cases, it is balderdash. I'm not saying there aren't examples of it. There probably are, but not in the quantity that you're seeing them on social media at the moment. And one of the things that this smacks to me, and I might be wrong about this, but this is my view, I think we're seeing this from people who are perceived as very successful. I think we're seeing this because the algorithm is starting to bite and it isn't working anymore. If you've got a template that can make somebody 6 million quid in sales, don't tell me you're going to give it away for nothing, because that doesn't make commercial sense. So where you see people doing this, it doesn't, in me anyway, it doesn't trigger, oh my God, I've got to have a part of that. What it triggers in me is, what aren't they telling me? Nobody gives that something away that is that valuable for nothing unless they need to. This is just human nature. So cookie cutter approaches won't work because the algorithms will not let them in the future. That's part of why they're shifting. Now, if that person with that cookie cutter approach is willing to pay for boosted posts through LinkedIn, they will absolutely share that content because they're being paid to do it. But they're going to stop doing it for people who are not paying for that service. That is also commercial pressure. So please, when you start to see this stuff, when you start to see the cookie cutter approach we're giving away for nothing, when we start to see the people who are making 7 figures at the moment, ask yourself, are they earning that figure themselves? And some will be. Please don't get me wrong, some will be. But the majority of them will not be. And how, in all honesty and in all integrity, can you show somebody how to make a 7-figure business if you haven't achieved that for yourself? It's just a basic question for me. So when you look at this stuff, you have to look through the hype. So stop believing everything that you're seeing on social media, because a lot of it, and I know this is shock and horror, but a lot of it ain't true. It's exaggeration. So don't compare yourself with these people. They're not you. They've not lived your life. They've not shared your passion. They don't have your experience. So why the hell would you compare yourself with somebody who's so different to you? Don't fall into that trap. And instead use that time, because I tell you what, comparisonitis it's blooming exhausting and it's time consuming. So stop doing that, and with the time it frees up, start to put that into building your own platform, creating your own communities where you are valued for being you, and the knowledge that you have and the transformation that you can create. And that's not going to happen overnight. But if you don't start it today, when are you going to start it? So I think you're probably starting to get the idea then of why I created Thought Leaders. I wanted to create this platform, this directional platform for those who have deep expertise and track record, because I wanted to give them somewhere where they could stand out, somewhere where they could be seen for what they know and for what they've learned and for what they've applied and for what they've developed. And the ones that are just tired of dancing to algorithms that change on a whim, because that's exhausting as well. And so I just wanted to offer a different platform for that, create a different platform for that. I think most of them are frustrated at not standing out, as we've talked about, from people with clearly less experience and less capability. And instead of instead of that comparisonitis creating an envy, why are they doing so good and I'm doing crap, or not as well? Start to put some realism into that, because that's just not true. You may not be achieving the results that you want to achieve, but that's almost certainly nothing to do with your level of expertise and your knowledge. It's to do with the way that you're using it to connect with other people. If you want visibility that reflects your credibility and gives you that reputation that you're looking for, it commands respect and achieves that gravitas, you have to do things differently to the way you've done them up to now. And just acknowledging that will take you forward. So, your next reflection is this one. If you were going to improve your standing as an expert in 2026, where would you start? What do you think would be the first step that you would take to do that? And the reason I want to get you thinking about this is that for me, there's lots of things that experts could do that they just never even think of doing. So, and I just think about the way I've developed my expertise and my reputation over the years. And some of the things I've done is that I've appeared in the media. So people have done articles about me, or I've appeared on a radio show, or I've appeared on podcasts, or I've contributed. I've written articles for various different magazines and publications. I've published books. I have been interviewed on panels at conferences. I've done public speaking. I've done a TEDx talk. I have run public events that I curated myself, or that I've collaborated with other people and participated in. There is so much more than you can do than sitting at a keyboard and just putting stuff out on digital media. It might not be as quick to do. It might be a lot more complex to do than that, but it doesn't mean to say you shouldn't be doing it. And for everyone who is interested enough to come and listen to anything that I do about thought leadership, the one question that I'm going to be posing this year, and people are going to get sick and fed up of hearing me say this, is what have you written today that increases your standing as an authority in your subject? Because if you are not publishing stuff, and I'm not talking about posts on social media, I'm talking about things that are more meaningful than that, a white paper, a green paper, a manifesto, an ebook. If you are not putting your ideas out there for other people to think about, reflect on, then how do they know that that stuff's in your head? Because you sure as hell can't do it in a social media post. It's one of the reasons that Substack is starting to really take off. That people have realised that if they want to get what's out of their head down on paper in a form that they can share publicly, Substack is a really easy way of doing that. And it does have the credibility that lots of social media platforms don't have at the moment. So if you were going to improve your standing as an expert, how would you do that? Just pick one thing. What would you do? So one of the other things that I get people to think about in terms of the thought leadership stuff that they do is strategic frameworks. Now, these are different from tactics. So one of the things that I've learned in my long career is that I fall into doing things, or I have felt into doing things by accident. So I might find myself taking a particular approach to solve a problem. And I think, that's quite good, isn't it? That's unique. I've thought of that, aren't I good? And I pat myself on the back. And then I do some research and find that it's actually a theory that was proved by somebody else, maybe 30, 40, in some cases 60 years ago, that is still valid, that I've put my own take on, but nevertheless existed long before I came along. And that's because there is a theoretical body of knowledge that explains nearly everything that every one of our specialisms already does. We just may not know it exists. So there are loads of examples of this. So things like the majority of people know Maslow's hierarchy. They've heard of it. They sort of understand that it's a framework that describes the sort of things that help people move forward and motivate them into action. And so most people will have heard about that. It's got some real fantastic cheerleaders. It's got some people who throw rocks at it because I think it's dreadful. But it is a very, very solid track record, proven theoretical construct that can help you to do things differently in your business when you apply it to a specific aspect of what you do. And theory like that exists in all of those fields. And one of the strengths that I have, and one of the things for people that work with me will find out, is I'm a real nerd and I love this stuff. I love strategic frameworks, theoretical models. I absolutely love them because they make sense of the world and they reduce complexity into manageable, usable knowledge. I absolutely love this stuff. And if you become part of this network, if you become part of the thought leader world and the thought leader community, you'll get frequent sort of snippets of this sort of stuff. The bell curve of change was one that I used in a recent masterclass that I did. And the bell curve of change, again, is a very, very well documented theoretical framework. And it talks about the way in which people en masse adapt and use and implement changes. And the way I used it with thought leaders is that if you use the bell curve of change, you can understand where to put your efforts to produce real results and not waste your time. And there are loads of examples like that. The authority triangle, you can use that to position your experience as intellectual capital and monetize it. Strategic silence is an applied model to shift you from speaking more to speaking with intent. And that helps you build gravitas and authority much quicker than it would if you're just a megaphone shouting into the distance. So if you're a thought leader, you have to take the continued development of your knowledge base seriously because it's part of what you do. Working on yourself then as a purpose-driven leader, I use things like personality insights. So I use MBTI, and some of you on the call today or watching this will have done the session that I did on Myers-Briggs typology, and in particular your thought leader type. And if you've never done that, it is fundamental to you understanding where your talents and where your secret sauce lies. You have no idea the potential that sits within you until you understand a self-insight tool like this. There are lots of them. I just prefer to use MBTI because it helps you to understand how you can influence, how you can communicate, and how you can lead others. And that is power in a bottle. It just is. It also helps you to understand why certain visibility strategies feel very draining to you, or why they feel as though they lack authenticity, and why you need to do it in a different way. Understanding that helps you capitalize on what you are going to do. And it helps you do that comfortably. And these things can help you build your unique platform that works for you with your psychology and is not working against you constantly. So these things are important, and it's why I use them as working tools, part of the community that I've created. So as we come to the end of our session today, I want to get you thinking about platform building as an ecosystem. And I'm asking you, as a result, if you're listening to this today or you're listening to the recording, please do not pick a platform and just post more. Please don't do that. Because you're setting yourself up for more disappointment. The reality is that's not going to make any difference at all to what you do. If you're not posting on the right platform, if you're not posting the right content, if you're not attracting the right people to listen to you, it will not work. So save yourself a lot of pain and angst and don't do it. Design your own thought leader ecosystem that is multi-channeled and includes this balance of rented and owned assets. Think about a cohesive strategy for your visibility, and that includes public relations. That includes the use of wider media. Create strategic networks and relationships this is really important, about questioning the rooms that you're in, and use your signature ideas and your narratives and the stories that you have create a story library that builds that resonance and the authority. If you've been there, done it, and got the t-shirt, you need to be able to tell the stories that demonstrate that. Don't just pick them out in the air or wait until one pops into your memory. Should have a library of those that you can use as and when you want to, in a conscious way. If you do that, your result will be more coherent, and it won't just be adding to the noise that already exists. So I'm also getting people to think about this year. I'm going to people to think about peer intelligence and broadening the context that they operate in. And one of the most powerful elements of your platform are the rooms that you're operating in. So this is asking you to think about the networking that you're doing. And this is a tough message to hear, but I'm going to say it anyway. If you're the most intelligent or the most experienced person in the room, then you're not in the right room. If you are that, then you will come out of your networking feeling exhausted and drained because everybody else has sucked you dry, and they will be giving you nothing in return. And that's not what networking is. Networking is a two-way street. You give, but you can gain as well. And if you are doing all the giving and you're doing none of the gaining, you're not in the right rooms. So if you do nothing else, have a look at what you're doing with your networking and ask some really hard questions about whether you're operating in the right space. You have to be part of a network, a peer group that operates at a similar level to you or higher than you for you to really start to gain benefit from your networking. Otherwise, you're just that lovely person who gives so much stuff, and who everybody wants at their networking event, and who walks away with an empty bag. I want you to think about intelligent conversations rather than surface level networking. So this isn't if you sit at a networking event and say, okay, tell me about your business, what do you do? If those are the level of the conversations that you're having, then you need to sharpen up your practice around networking. You are dealing with peers, and therefore the intelligent conversations you have can be much more complex than that. But you have to start working at it. You can't, if those are the conversations that you're having, you're never really going to get much out of that. So I want you to think differently about the way you network. And you have to be able to see the bigger picture to translate insight into action. And that is about strategic thinking. And if you don't know how to strategically think, you need to learn how to do that, because that is the thing that holds back people from scaling their business. If they're fed up of playing it small, but they don't do strategic thinking, they'll never break out of that pattern. So those are the things that I wanted to get you thinking about in terms of if you wanted to concentrate on something that would take you somewhere different at the end of 2026, this is some of the stuff. So your final reflection I'm going to get you to think about then is, what are you going to do for yourself in 2026 that changes the narrative around your success? Just from listening to this today, there should be one thing, just one thing, that has had such resonance with you, you wanted to write it down, or you wanted to ask me a question about it, or you wanted to go away and do a bit of research on it. Capture what that is, because that's the start of you creating your authority with the people that you're trying to reach in the coming year. So for the people who aren't with us, and I apologise for the ones that have, I'm just going to rattle through these next two slides for the people who are watching this on replay. Because the unique community that I'm creating is designed to do all of this, designed to level up your thinking. It's there to get you to disrupt the status quo, so not playing it safe all the time. And it's helping you to build your own community so that you own it as the authority and you are not subject to the winds of change that social media is going to be blowing your way over the next 12 months. If you want to become part of the solution, not just somebody experiencing the problem, you have to create real value in your market and in your industry, and you have to be willing to stand up as the authority, and you have to know how you're going to do that. And as I say, I've created the Thought Leader Academy to do exactly that. So for anybody that is interested in coming along and joining and finding out a bit more about what we do, you've heard a little bit about it today. I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. If you want to call or whatever, please feel free to do that. The Thought Leader Founder membership is open at the moment. I know I've got a couple of members already that are on the call live today. But for those who want it, there is lifetime access that is just £1,100 if you become a founder member before the 31st of December this year. That ends at midnight on the 1st of January 2026. The Thought Leader Academy standard membership is £2,500. It's still lifetime access, but the price will increase. And so that's it. If you want to talk to me about it, I'm more than happy to have a conversation with you. What I want to do is provide something that is different, something that is a space that desires the expansion of your mind, not just the offerings that you are putting out to the public. And if that interests you, I'd love a conversation with you about it. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stop the share. I'm going to open it up and just say, has anybody got any questions or observations about anything that I've talked about today?
Not really, but it was amazing as always, Wendy. Every time I listen to you, I am with you in, unfortunately, until now in a virtual room. We haven't been,
We haven't, no.
no, but it's always different. And I believe we had a discussion about this
Yeah.
privately, and yeah, I will just put it in my head and think about it again.
And I think that you know, if you're not in a position to join us at the moment, you might have other things on. There might be other developments that you're doing, whatever. The Thought Leader group, the challenge group, is a private group that is open on Facebook.
Okay.
And all you need to do is to join that group. I think you're already a part of that group
No,
anyway.
I
Are you
don't
not
believe,
a part of that group?
no,
I'll,
I
I'll
don't believe,
send you anybody that joins today. I'll send you an invitation. You can join that group. It's free to do that. All I need is your email address, obviously. And
yeah,
then what I'll do from time to time is anything that I'm putting out, you'll get access to. So I'm putting content out all the time. But there'll be events. So one of the things that I do is think tanks. I know you've been to one of the think tanks as well, Zena. But the think tanks are really important because they are spaces where we just take a topic of some sort and we just play around with it and just think about it and ask questions about it.
I don't believe I have been in any of think tanks.
Right, I'll make sure for the next one then that we're doing, and we've got
Yeah,
one in early, I think it's January we've got one, or it might be February. I'll send you an invitation because they're fantastic events. They're about an hour and a half long, I think. And people walk away going, wow, when was the last time I had the chance to think like that? That's what
sure.
I want to create. It's that
Yeah,
spark of originality and innovation that they're there to sort of fire up. So I'll make sure you get an
I'd
invitation.
really love, yeah, and I'd really love to join the Facebook group. And I'm
Okay.
sure I will, yeah, I will be in contact with you regarding other things because there are other things I'm working on them, and I believe it would be maybe more personal things. So
Yeah,
it is another way of
absolutely fine.
framework. Yeah,
Yeah, more than happy to do that.
thank
More
you
than
so
happy
much.
to have that conversation with you. Anything from Chris or from Loretta then? Loretta is already a member of Thought Leaders, so Loretta's already a member, and
Okay,
so some of the work that she's done the Myers-Briggs stuff with us, and again, it's making a big difference. And you can be at different stages in your own
exactly.
development for you to get something from this. This isn't about you reaching a certain level. This is about you being a thinker. If you're a critical thinker, then you're welcome and you will get something from it.
Definitely. By the way,
Chris,
there's,
oh yeah,
sorry,
go
I'm
on.
sorry. The recording you've done with about the MBTI together, is it something that we can listen to it again? The one that we done with
Yes, yeah, I'll send you the
link?
link for I'll send you a link for the
Great.
recording.
Yes,
Yeah,
please.
no problem. Chris, is there anything that you want to ask before I close today?
Yeah, send me the link to join up, please.
Okay,
I
will
want to
do.
join up and get the offer. I may not
Okay.
participate actively for about a month,
Mm,
because I may not be able to type or write very much for the next 5 weeks or so.
okay.
But this is what I want for the next stage of my life, and I'm just so grateful it's come around at the right time.
Fantastic, Chris. We'd love to have you. So yeah, I will send you that link after today. So, thank you for that. I hope you've really enjoyed it. You can see from the sort of stuff that I do, it's a bit different from the sort of run-of-the-mill stuff, but that's because you're different. Your needs are different. You're individual. So I really hope that you've taken something away from today. If any of you want a further conversation with you about anything that I've discussed today, please feel free to reach out. You can gain access to me via the website, which is www.wendyeffect.biz, or you can email me, wendy@wendygarcars.com, or you can phone me because I've got a telephone number that's available at the bottom of any email that I've sent you. So please feel free to reach out if you think that I can help or you just want to chat. In the meantime, have a wonderful new year and make it a positive one. Looking forward to what next year brings, as long as you do something different. Because if you do what you've always done, you'll get what you've always got. Thanks
Thank
for
you.
listening. Bye, everybody.
Bye, thank you.